Since Christmas is the most important holiday in many countries, there's a near endless supply of Christmas-themed media. There's Christmas songs, Christmas books, Christmas movies, and whatever this is supposed to be.
As you
However, there's one medium where Christmas hasn't been prominent in as much. Despite Christmas being pretty important for video game sales, there aren't a lot of games that take place during the holiday season. I think since many games are meant to be played over a long period of time, Christmas-themed games might not sell well if there's only a certain time of the year that players would want to buy them. And also, not everyone celebrates Christmas. That being said, there are actually a few Christmas-themed games out there, so I set off on a mission to find the best Christmas video games. In this video, I'll be talking about all of the Christmas-themed games that I played. Because of time restraints, I wasn't able to play some of the games as much as I would want to. So don't think of my short reviews as a definitive analysis or critique of the games, but rather think of this video as a broad overview of the games I played. Now before I begin, I need to address some things. I decided to define a Christmas game as a game that is completely centered around Christmas. There are many video games that have Christmas elements to them, whether it's timed events, DLC, cosmetics, or Christmas-themed levels, such as Animal Crossing, Fortnite, Undertale, etc. But since those games don't always have those Christmas elements throughout the entire game, I don't consider them to be Christmas games. You can dress up Mario as Santa, but Super Mario Odyssey wasn't created to be a Christmas game. I decided to focus only on games that take place at Christmas or just feel Christmassy to me. In terms of platforms, I used a PS4, Nintendo Switch, and Steam. I quickly realized that the Switch isn't that great with recording footage, so for most of the games I just used the PS4 and PC. I know that there's a lot of Christmas games on older consoles, but I just decided to focus on the more modern games for this video. This isn't a definitive list of all the Christmas games on these platforms, but I tried to get a wide variety of genres for this video. When I start talking about a game, on the lower left side of the screen, you'll see the name of the game, the platform I played it on, and how much it cost for me. Since many of these games are on sale and their prices fluctuate, I thought it would just be easier to say how much I paid for. Also, everything I say is just my opinion. I have my own tastes and biases, and I'm okay if people have different opinions than me. Even when I'm being extremely critical about a game, I don't harbor any animosity toward the developers. I have a lot of respect for anyone who has developed and released a video game. With all that said, let's get into the video. To start off, let's talk about the worst Christmas games I played. Whether these games were created by a novice game designer, rushed by a greedy company, or just rubbed me the wrong way, I suggest you stay away from these games at all costs. Aussie Battler's Tank's Christmas Fun, Euligan's Christmas is Coming, and The Night Christmas Ended all didn't work for me, so I just couldn't play them. Christmas Time 2019 is a game where you play as Santa as he first fills his bag, and then as he delivers presents by gun. You need to shoot presents, Christmas trees, and lights at houses in order to get a high score. Also, if you get hit by a car, it's game over. It's a cute idea for a game, but it's just so bland and buggy that I would just avoid it. A Maze Christmas is a game where you go through many tiny mazes. All the mazes are so small you can't possibly get lost in them. Chocolate Makes You Happy, New Year. Players need to click on the squares at the right time to get the cookie to the goal. It's about as fun as it looks. Garathi Christmas. I hope I pronounced that right. To get the snowflake ball to the goal, you need to change gravity at the right time. It's a good starting point for a puzzle game, but it doesn't expand on the idea or do anything interesting. Christmas Patchwork Frozen. It's basically a bunch of jigsaw puzzles, but it's sometimes hard to see where the pieces are supposed to go. Christmas Race is a game where you have to guide Santa through a forest and collect presents to buy cosmetics. Since you play this game with only one button, it's pretty hard to control. Christmas Race 2 is literally the same game as the first, now with copyright infringement. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I'm pretty sure this is illegal. Christmas Break is a breakout-like game where you have to destroy everything in the screen with a ball and a paddle. The ball and paddle can get upgrades that make it easier to break everything, but when the upgrades run out, the game becomes incredibly boring because you just have to wait and hope that the ball will go in the right place. Also, why are the levels represented by chibi girls? It makes no sense and is completely out of place. Christmas Break head-to-head is literally the same game as the first, but now you can play against a CPU or another player. I don't know why anyone would want to do that or why a 2-player mode wasn't included in the first game. It seems to me that both Christmas Break games seem to exist to make the most amount of money with the least amount of work. Shopping Clutter 2, Christmas Square, is a game where you have to find hidden objects. It's boring and sometimes hard to see what to click on. Kill the Santa is a very terrible shooter where you kill drunk Santa clones. The guns don't work most of the time, the music and sound effects are annoying, and it fills me with sadness. Viscera Cleanup Detail, Santa's Rampage. I bet you can tell from the title, but this game is very gory, and it actually made me sick. I'm generally okay with some amount of blood, but this game was just too much for me to handle. Big Dipper is a romance visual novel. I expected it to be a cheesy, Hallmark-esque tale of how two people fell in love on a wintry night. Instead, Big Dipper is about two very unlikable people insulting each other and getting caught up in their very bizarre backstories. The plot is weird and badly paced. I don't like any of the characters, and worst of all, the dialogue sometimes doesn't make sense. The game was written in Russian, and the translation is abysmal in some places. For example, he gave me two options. Either he reports me to the police and they take me to a place where they feed you with cow poo-poo, as he put it. But even if the translation was good, the story is just plain bad. Andrew and Julia have absolutely no chemistry, and instead of focusing on their relationship, Big Dipper focuses on weird subplots between magical bears, Julia's really creepy grandpa, and Andrew's abusive mom. And by the way, the abusive mom thing was not handled in a respectful or appropriate way. I could go on and on, but I'll just stop and say, don't buy it. The Thing with Mistletoes is another romance visual novel, and it's slightly better than Big Dipper, but it's still not good. First off, yes, the art style is very weird and amateurish, but I eventually got used to it. The game follows Lumina, a high school student who's babysitting her brother Vince since her parents are on a work trip. But Vince gets kidnapped and it's up to Lumina to find her brother. But also, it's a love story for some reason. At the beginning of the game, you meet several potential bachelors, and depending on your decisions, one of them ends up helping Lumina find Vince. My decisions made Lumina fall in love with a guy named Jake. And I hate Jake so much. He's annoying, stuck up, and a jerk. I just want to punch his stupid face. Anyway, after you're paired up with one of the boys, Lumina needs to solve the mystery of Vince's kidnapping. I didn't really like searching for Vince or how the kidnapping was resolved. Also, at the end of the game, Lumina makes an incredibly heartless comment about victims of trauma. So, that's pretty disgusting. I really didn't like The Thing with Mistletoes. I only played through it once, and I know that there's different paths and endings the story can take, but I'm just not interested in going through all of that again. Even though it's free, I would highly recommend you never to download it. Santa Tracker. There is only one time a year that you will use a Santa Tracker, and most of them are free. So presumably, the one that costs money should be the premium Santa Tracker, right? It's not. The Earth looks super disgusting and bland, the moon is absolutely terrifying, and Santa's movements seem completely random. There's just no point in using this compared to the other free Santa Trackers online. Although it has several advent calendar things, all of which are not great. There's also too many games. Present Game is a very generic game where you play as Santa as he crams as many presents as possible in one chimney. The other game, Santa Slide, is actually just an edited version of Christmas Race. So, I don't know what's going on with that. In terms of music, Santa Tracker gets the award for the worst rendition of Jingle Bells I have ever heard. So, in conclusion, don't buy this. Please don't. Anime Jigsaw Girls Christmas. This game has 12 puzzles and they're all identical except each one has a different poorly designed anime girl. Adolescent Santa Claus is a very weird visual novel. I honestly don't know how to describe it. Basically, Santa is dying because her business venture of borrowing hopes and dreams from children isn't working, and so she had to take the form of an adolescent girl in order to survive. Most of the game is just endless text explaining the weird Santa lore, and then it suddenly ends with no satisfying conclusion. I didn't like it, and I wouldn't recommend it, even though it's free. There are definitely better ways that you can spend 20 minutes. Santa Claus in Trouble is the game that disappointed me the most. There aren't a lot of new 3D platformers in recent years, and I was hoping that Santa Claus in Trouble could be a hidden gem. But it's not, it's just bland, it's boring. Santa moves slowly and feels incredibly awkward to control. The entire game is just a bunch of floating platforms in an endless abyss without any sense of cohesion. The worst part about the game, though, is that Santa can double jump, which would be fine if the game was designed around that. But the game seems like it was designed with the idea that Santa would only be able to jump once, which makes all of the platforming almost completely pointless. Why make a platformer if the player can completely bypass the game's design? But the Christmas Gifts is even worse. Actually, it might be the worst game I've ever played. Bad game design? Check. Awful physics? Check. Grammatical errors? Check. Rating music? Check. Confusing controls? Check. It truly is the worst of the worst. In this section, I'll be talking about games that I feel like I'm not really qualified to talk about. For example, I'm not a big fan of puzzle games, but that doesn't mean that the puzzle games I played were bad. I just feel like I can't really give an informed opinion about them. However, I still want to talk about these games because they're kind of interesting. Dual Match Solitaire Winterscapes and Solitaire Jack Frost Winter Adventures are solitaire games. Christmas Gridler's Journey to Santa and Travel Mosaic 6, Christmas Around the World are nonogram games. Santa's Workshop is a puzzle game where you have to push items into a green space to get them wrapped. Santa's Xmas Adventure is a puzzle game where you slide blocks of ice to create a path for Santa to get to the goal. The controls are really clunky, and there was an audio glitch that muted the game when I checked my trophies. Also, Santa constantly swears at you while you play. The next 3 games are romance visual novels, and they are all sequels to games that I've never played before, so I didn't play any of them for that long. Code Realize Wintertide Miracles is the 3rd game in the Code Realize series. The setting is pretty interesting since it takes place in a steampunk version of London. Cowrie After Story is a sequel to a visual novel called Ace Academy. The game follows a guy named Tristan who is visiting his girlfriend's family for Christmas. Hatoful Boyfriend Holiday Star is a sequel to the original Hatoful Boyfriend, and it's about birds dating each other. There are a lot of Christmas-themed point-and-click adventure games on Steam, but I only picked 3 of these games to play, and they all have very similar gameplay. Basically, you need to solve puzzles and complete minigames in order to advance the story. A large portion of these minigames are hidden item games, where you're given a list of things to find in an image. Sometimes you'll get items in your inventory, and will need to use them to progress through the game. Christmas Adventure Candy Storm is about... well, to be honest, I don't really know what it's about. Apparently, some witches transformed the protagonist's car into candy, and now they're stuck in the middle of a Christmas wonderland. It's a pretty cozy game, although I feel like I would be more interested in playing more if there was a coherent plot. Christmas Stories, A Christmas Carol Collector's Edition loosely follows the plot of A Christmas Carol. You play as Scrooge's niece or nephew, and you need to solve puzzles and find items in order to find more about Scrooge's past. I like this a lot more than Christmas Adventure Candy Storm, and I think the game is pretty charming, especially since there's animated cutscenes and voice acting. There's even a complete walkthrough built into the game, so you'll never get stuck. Faircroft's Antiques, Home for Christmas, follows Mia Faircroft as she visits her hometown for the holidays. Apparently there's an entire Faircroft series that's about Mia doing various things, but you don't need to play any of the previous games in order to understand this one. However, I just found this game boring. None of the characters are interesting to me, and the plot is literally just about Mia doing random stuff. Delicious, Emily's Christmas Carol is the 16th installment in the Delicious Emily series. The plot is about Paige, Emily's daughter, wanting to be an angel in a school musical. This game is a time management game where you are in charge of an outdoor bakery. The faster you respond to customers' orders, the happier they will be, and you will get more points. There's also an optional mode that adds twists to the gameplay, such as having an instant game over if you stand still for 8 seconds. Krampus is Home is a horror game where you are all alone on Christmas Eve, and then some spooky stuff happens. But I don't like horror games at all, so I didn't play this much. After I saw Rudolph sneak into the house, I freaked out and just gave up. There's also a multiplayer mode, but you need at least 2 people to play it, and since nobody's playing online, the multiplayer is basically dead. In this section, I'll be talking about games that I liked or that I thought had an interesting aspect to them. Even though I had some major problems with some of these games, I still think that they are much better than the games in Section 1. Rubber Bandits: Xmas Prologue is a multiplayer game. I'm going to be honest, I don't really understand how this game works, but despite that, it was surprisingly fun. Roman's Christmas is a murder mystery visual novel, kind of similar to Ace Attorney. It follows a detective named Roman and some of his anthropomorphic animal acquaintances. Unfortunately, it's very, very boring. After playing through Roman's Christmas for around 40 minutes, I was bored as heck. The game introduces about a dozen characters at once, and they are all completely forgettable. When the first murder occurred, I just wasn't invested in the story enough to care. I think it's possible that the game will get better later, but I'm just not interested in playing more. I think if you're a fan of murder mystery visual novels and are okay with a slow start to the story, you'll probably like Roman's Christmas, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. Model Railway Easily Christmas. This is a game where you can build a Christmas-themed train track. The options are very limited, but it's free, so... Long Live Santa is a battle royale where a bunch of bearded old men fight to the death, and the winner will be the next Santa. You can punch each other to the death or use weapons that fall from the sky occasionally. These include a giant sword, a crossbow, and a reindeer. This game is completely stupid, and I love it. Yeah, there's only one tiny map and there's not a lot of content, and there are a lot of bugs, but honestly, I don't care. It's free, it's fun with friends, I definitely recommend playing it, especially if you have a group of people. Xmas Shooting Scramble is a shoot-'em-up about Aru, the bunny-eared Santa, trying to save the stolen Christmas presents. The plot is pretty bizarre and not really in a good way, which would be fine if the gameplay is good, but I'm not a big fan of shoot-'em-ups. Basically, you need to shoot all the enemies and avoid their fire. The problem is that it's way too easy for most of the time, and then there's a difficulty increase when there's a boss battle. This makes the game extremely boring most of the time, and then the bosses are extremely frustrating. And since there's not any checkpoints in the stage, once you die you have to play the entire stage all over again to get to the boss. I just don't like that idea of difficulty. I don't like replaying a large section of a game that I already played just to get back to the place where I died. I know that there are a lot of people who like these kinds of shoot-'em-ups, but for me, I didn't like it that much. Season's Beatings is a very challenging first-person shooter where you need to kill everyone in each stage. Enemies are quick and can kill you in one hit. You need to memorize the layout and the placement of the enemies if you want to win. This is a game where you will die many times before you will finally finish a stage. Unfortunately, I didn't like this game. The difficulty is just way too high. I understand that some people like games that are incredibly difficult. I mean, it has a lot of good reviews, but I just don't like the difficulty curve. A game that has a good difficulty curve, in my opinion, is Celeste. It's very difficult, but it teaches the players all of the mechanics they need to know. Season's Beatings just throws everything at once to the player without explaining anything. I personally wouldn't recommend Season's Beatings unless you really like difficult games. Headbangers in Holiday Hell is a roguelike twin-stick shooter where Santa's elves have kidnapped a bunch of headbangers, and you need to save them. I personally didn't really like the edgy 90s vibe, but the gameplay is surprisingly fun. In each run, you need to make fast, strategical decisions while trying to avoid all of the bullets. It feels really good to control. However, I have one big problem with the game. It's a roguelike. Like I said in Xmas Shooting Scramble, I don't like games where when you die, you have to replay a large amount of the game in order to get to the part where you died. But in this game, it's worse, since you have to start the entire game all over again. True, you can buy upgrades that make the game easier, and yes, the game is randomized, but I still don't like it. The randomization does nothing to make the levels more unique or interesting, and the upgrades don't change the gameplay significantly. This means that most of the game is just playing the same levels over and over. I understand that a lot of people like this difficulty, but I don't. I like difficult games when they offer enough checkpoints so I don't feel like I wasted my time. The base gameplay is really strategic and engaging, but being an incredibly difficult roguelike completely killed the fun for me. And also the generic heavy metal music The screechy elf noises and the sound effects got really annoying after a while. I had fun with the game, but eventually I just got tired of playing. Roombo First Blood. You know Home Alone? The classic family movie where a kid puts two burglars in an endless torrent of pain and punishment? Well, what if there was a game that was like Home Alone, but instead of being family friendly, a robot vacuum brutally murders the burglars and shreds their corpses? Well, that's what Roombo First Blood is about. In each level, some burglars break into Roombo's owner's house. To stop the burglars, you need to kill them by hacking various parts of the house to hurt them. You also need to stay out of sight because if the burglars find you, they will kick you. If they hit you 3 times, it's game over. And yes, it's pretty bloody, but the blood has a purpose. If you suck enough blood, you're able to perform a powerful attack. After the burglars are dead, the game transitions to a cleaning minigame, and the juxtaposition of the bloody deaths to the happy Christmas music is amazing. I like the game's premise and gameplay. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a lot of content. The entire game takes place in one house and there isn't any enemy variety. If there were some more stages and more enemies, I think it would be a lot better. But if you think it looks fun, then I would recommend it. Ho Ho Home Invasion and Secret Santa are both stealth games where you play as Santa as he delivers presents. Considering that stealth sections are one of my least favorite parts of video games, I didn't like these games that much. A large portion of these games is just standing around, waiting for the right moment to keep progressing. And since the AI and collision detection can be really wonky, it sometimes feels unfair when I get caught. That being said, both of these games have good reviews on Steam, so the problem is probably me not having enough patience. But since they're free, I feel like I can't really criticize them too much. Mrs. Santa's Gift Hunt is an RPG about Mrs. Claus and Frosty trying to save Christmas. Someone stole all of the presents, and you need to explore a cave to find them. This game is fine. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. It's just a generic RPG Maker game. Although I'm not bashing RPG Maker, there's a lot of good games made in that engine. The game is pretty short since it's about 40 minutes long. There's voice acting, and it's not that great.
Hey, Mrs. S, that cave is awfully dark. We should try to find a flashlight before we head in.
And also, this game is weirdly suggestive at times, and it feels very out of place. I'd recommend it only if you are really bored and want a generic RPG to play in one sitting. In the Service of Mrs. Claus is a text-based narrative about, well, it's about a lot of things. First things first, this game is entirely text-based. There's no graphics. You play as the head elf and must navigate the complex political struggles and wars of Christmas. This game has a darker take on the Christmas lore, and I really like the world building, but my favorite part of In the Service of Mrs. Claus is the RPG elements. Like I said earlier, you play as the head elf, who's basically your avatar. At the beginning of the game, you're able to choose your pronouns, your name, and later on, you're able to make decisions that drastically change the outcome of the game. These decisions also impact your stats, which are taken into account during certain moments. In addition, you have different relationships with different characters. Depending on your actions, the characters will either like or hate you more. Your relationships with the different characters will also impact the story as well. For some of the characters, you're able to have a romantic relationship with them. Don't worry, it makes much more sense in this game than The Thing with Mistletoes. There's 3 different romance options. Depending on who you romance or who you don't, the story changes as well. All of these decisions and customization options make multiple playthroughs different. I do have some problems though. Despite the cool RPG customization, I didn't like all of the story and some of the characters. There's even some grammatical errors, which is weird for a game that is so text-focused. In the Service of Mrs. Claus isn't for everyone, but if you're looking for a story with a unique take on Christmas with lots of branching paths and are okay with some narrative problems, I would recommend it. Santa Rockstar Steam Edition is a rhythm game where Santa and his band play some heavy metal Christmas songs. Basically, the game boils down to pressing the right keys to match up with the song. The music and characters are edgy, but in a fun Christmas way. I really enjoyed the game and would definitely recommend it, especially if it's on sale for less than $1. Fork Parker's Holiday Profit Hike is a platformer game where you play as an old businessman trying to make some cash. Every time you die, you lose $5,000 and go back to a checkpoint. The goal of the game is to get to the end with a nice profit. Honestly, this game is pretty good. The best part about the game is that you're able to create ropes that you can climb on, but you can only have 2 ropes at a time, so there's kind of a puzzle element. You need to think about the positioning of the ropes and whether you are able to reach where you want to go. However, I do have a few problems. There's only one music track and it gets really annoying after a while. There also needs to be more checkpoints after a difficult platforming challenge. Like I said before, I don't like replaying content that I already beat. This actually made me stop playing because it was annoying and I was also running out of time. But despite that, I would definitely recommend this game because it's free and it's pretty fun. Everybody Wham Wham is technically not a Christmas game. There's Christmassy elements, but there's also Halloween stuff. But I'm gonna put it here since it feels Christmassy to me. Anyway, Everybody Wham Wham is about a snowman building festival hosted by Wham Wham the Snowman Man. The game takes place over a period of 10 days. Every day you enter a snowman building competition. In the competition, you are given some criteria for the type of snowman you need to make. You need to give the snowman a body, stick arms, and add accessories. You can actually steal accessories from your opponents, but if they catch you, you'll have a 2-point penalty. But if they don't catch you, you can put their accessory on your snowman. On each day, you can win a maximum of 10 points. Each day, you can roam around the festival and talk to the people there. The art style and animation is pretty cute, and there's also voice acting. I don't think the voice acting is amazing, but it's kind of charming in a weird way.
Hey Pumpkinhead person, I don't know if I introduced myself already, but I'm Gula. Premium gelato, creamy and delicious. I escaped from the ice cream shop. Sometimes I miss my friends. I wonder what pistachio such a teller up to.
The entire game is about 2 hours long, and I really liked it. I guess the only problem I can think of is that there isn't really a strong narrative, but I still thought it was really fun. For the last section, here are my top 3 Christmas games. SantaCraft. After a huge snowstorm, Santa finds himself in the middle of the North Pole with nothing but his underwear. The reindeer and sled are missing, there are no elves, and all of the buildings have been destroyed. You start out with nothing and need to build up everything again. If you've played a game like Minecraft or Stardew Valley, you'll be pretty familiar with the gameplay loop. At the beginning of the game, walking, harvesting resources, and digging through the snow is kind of a slog. But as you get resources, you can craft items that make it much easier to move and dig around. By crafting certain items, you can get access to other resources, which can be used to craft more items that can be used to get more resources, so on and so forth. Eventually, everything is streamlined and you have a lot more freedom to explore the world. There's also no combat, which I think fits the chill vibe of the game. In this game, there is a clear end goal. Many abominable snowmen have captured the reindeer. In order to get them back, you need to complete tasks that they give you. There are also some optional side quests. The pixel art isn't breathtaking, but it's good enough. For the music, there's a mixture of original tracks and classic Christmas songs that loop around for the entire game. It's nothing amazing, but it fits the game well. Unfortunately, you have to play the entire game with the mouse. There were some times that I tried to click on something, but I actually clicked on something else. It's not a big deal, but I wish there was an option to control Santa with the WASD keys. Overall, I really liked SantaCraft. 100% finishing the game took me around 2 hours. It's short and sweet, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. I definitely recommend it. Cthulhu Saves Christmas is an RPG about, well, saving Christmas. Santa has been kidnapped by the League of Christmas Evil, and they've been sending anti-presents to people, which takes away the thing they value most. When Cthulhu opens the anti-present, his power to destroy the world is taken away. Cthulhu then meets Crystal, Santa's granddaughter, who tells Cthulhu that he can get his powers back if they save Santa. So they both set off on a quest to save Christmas. This game is a prequel to Cthulhu Saves the World. I haven't played the original game, but I could tell that there were some references to it and that there were some potential spoilers. This game is also very silly and it doesn't take itself seriously at all. There's a lot of references to pop culture and other video games, and everyone breaks the fourth wall. I really like the humor. It wasn't laugh out loud funny, but it was entertaining. Cthulhu Saves Christmas is a turn-based RPG. In the overworld, you explore and try to find items and get to the boss at the end of the area. Like in older RPGs, there are random encounters with monsters. In battles, party members and enemies take turns attacking each other. Enemies have weaknesses and you can take them down more easily if you can exploit them. Each party member has 8 different moves they can perform. Some of them can be equipped, while the other ones are chosen from a pool of moves. Once you've used an attack, you can't use it again until you use a restoration move, although there are some exceptions to this. There's also items and special moves that can be used once in each battle. At the end of each battle, everyone's healed and the items are restocked, which means that the game avoids the clunky item management a lot of RPGs face. Another great thing about this game is that you can adjust the difficulty whenever you want. In addition, you don't need to fight in random encounters if you don't want to. There's a lot of customization, and that's always a good thing in my opinion. There's also a social simulation aspect of the game. In between exploring the overworld and battling monsters, you stay at Christmasland, the most Christmassy town in the world. While staying there, you can strengthen your relationships with your party members and get specific items. For example, in this instance, if Cthulhu spent time with Crystal, he would get a shield wand. It's kind of like Persona or Fire Emblem Three Houses, but the benefits of spending time are much more straightforward. After spending a week in Christmasland, you go to the next location to explore and fight monsters. In terms of graphics, Cthulhu Saves Christmas is heavily inspired by 16-bit RPGs like Chrono Trigger and Earthbound. I think the graphics are pretty good, although I would have liked the events at Christmasland to have more animation, but it's not a big deal. I also really like the music. I really enjoyed Cthulhu Saves Christmas. It's definitely not the best indie RPG, but I had a lot of fun. While the game is only about 3 or 4 hours, I think it's the perfect length for a game like this. If you like turn-based RPGs, I definitely recommend this game. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales is one of my favorite games. It's set a year after the original Marvel Spider-Man, and you play as Miles Morales rather than Peter Parker. It's an open-world game where you explore Manhattan while doing Spider-Man stuff. Almost every aspect of this game is absolutely perfect. The combat, the traversal, the music, the story, and the graphics are all amazing. I wish I could do a deep analysis of the game, but unfortunately I just don't have the time right now, because as of recording, Christmas is only a few days away. I recommend you first play the 2018 game since this is a sequel, but I think Miles Morales improves on the first game a lot. This is the best Christmas game you will ever find. For this video, I played 54 Christmas games. Since I returned some of the games, and also since I bought Miles Morales a while ago, the cost of buying all these games for this video was $135.95. Which, wow, I didn't realize how much money I wasted until making this conclusion. The vast majority of the games I played are either shovelware or just didn't interest me that much. Just slapping on some Christmas-themed assets doesn't make a game good. But on the other hand, there were a couple of good games that I wouldn't have played if I didn't make this video. And it was pretty interesting to see how the different games used Christmas elements in their gameplay. I learned a lot about game design and my own opinions on video games while making this video. It was a fun experience. So if you watched this far, thank you. It means a lot to me. I sincerely hope your Christmas is just as amazing as you are.